Well, good morning, Rotary District 7770, and welcome to Conversations with Rotary Action People for Monday, September 28th. My name is Donald Hovis from the Chicora Rotary Club in Myrtle Beach, and I serve as your CWRAP host. And today is going to be all about leadership assessments. And with us today from Lexington, South Carolina, the founder of Carolina Training Assessments. Give a warm welcome to Mr. Jim Fadell. Good morning, Jim.
Good morning, Donald. Thank you so much, and good morning, everyone else. Thanks so much for having me here today. I'm excited about doing this, and I'm excited about being here. So thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Let me give you just a
real quick, Jim.
Yeah.
I'll cue you when I'm ready. We got to do a few announcements, okay, and I'll cue you here in just a minute.
You got it.
All right. So those of you on the call, thank you for being here. I'm going to call attention to my background, my purple, pinky, polio power, in polio now background. If you are doing a Rotary themed Zoom call in the month of October, we want you to use this background when you're on Zoom. If you want to know how to download it, I'm placing it again in the chat box. It is uploading right now. We'll be there in just a moment. So please download that when you see it. It's uploading in the chat box right now. All right. I am your CWRAP team this morning. Mary and Terry will not be with us, but Mary should be in shortly. So, but let's introduce everyone. Go in the chat box. I want you to say your name, your Rotary Club, and then answer this question. You don't need Google for this one. Just think, and I'm sure you got some great ideas. So tell us, what does a perfect breakfast look like for you? We want to know the menu. What's your perfect breakfast menu? How about place that in the chat box when you introduce yourself? And if you have any questions for Jim, please put those in the chat box as well. So Jim, welcome again, sir.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And thank you again to all of you. I appreciate being here and the opportunity to be with you this morning. I thought it would be appropriate for me to take just a short period of time to introduce myself in terms of background and some of my experiences. I started my career as an engineer. I studied chemical engineering in college, and then got into my career and eventually went back to school and got an MBA, and then spent the next 25 or so years mostly in Fortune 500 organizations, doing everything from engineering through manufacturing, sales, marketing, running whole business units, and division president at one point in time. About 10 years ago, I decided that 3 pots of coffee by noon every single day was probably not going to be good for my long-term health and well-being. And so I literally pulled the ripcord and got out of what I was doing and started the business that I'm doing today, which was actually the culmination of kind of a dream that I've had for a lot of years. And as a leader in an organization, especially a large organization, the things that I've had to encounter and the things that I've had to deal with, like prostitution rings in my plants and drug rings in my plants and injuries and fatalities in my plants, and just all the things nobody ever teaches you in leadership school. And I decided, as cliche as it sounds, I wanted to do something that would help lots of other organizations. So I was helping the one organization that I was working for, but I was at a point in my life when that wasn't going to do it anymore. And so I started this business to really accomplish 2 things. One, to help people who are struggling with leadership or want to become more effective leaders, and to help organizations create the most effective workplace that they can create. And so I do a lot of leadership training, a lot of leadership development, leadership coaching. I also do a lot of behavioral assessments, which I believe are a great tool to help people understand how others work. And so we can create better teams, more collaborative teams, and more effective teams. And I'm a past board member for Columbia SHRM, National SHRM member. I've been on the Association for Talent Development. I've been on the board for several civic organizations. I'm an adjunct teacher at University of South Carolina. I teach strategic business and HR management, and I just love everything I'm doing right now. So thank you so much for having me here.
So I will say I like kind of those leadership self-help books myself, and I love John Maxwell. Is there one out there that you kind of admire?
I tell you, there's a particular author that I really connect with, and his name is Patrick Lencioni. And Lencioni does a lot of work around teams and around collaborative kind of interactions. And his perspective on leadership and on teams is something that I really subscribe to. And then there's another book called Traction for kind of the tactical stuff of leadership. By a guy by the name of Gino Wickman. And he also presents kind of the other side of leadership, which is all around tactical management. How do we get things done? And those two are probably the ones that I really connect with right now.
Excellent. So what are the key things that a leader does?
Okay, so let me draw a distinction first, if I can, between leader and manager for just a second. We tend to think of manager or supervisor as somebody that addresses the status quo, right? Wants to make sure that the current operation, whatever that looks like, is the most effective and most efficient that it can be. Leader, on the other hand, is all about change. And so when we think about leadership is going from where we are today to some kind of future point B, somewhere down the road that hopefully is better. And to get there, whether it's a formal leader or an informal leader, a leader really does three things. The first thing that a leader does is crafts a vision. So what can this future state, what can it be, right? So being open to the possibilities of what can it really be. So crafting a vision is the first thing that an effective leader will do. And then the second thing is build alignment around that vision. And in terms of how do you build alignment, well, we know that the most effective way to do that is to tap into people's heads and their hearts. So when we talk about our organizations and our employees, to get their buy-in and their commitment on things, we really have to be able to speak to what's the logic behind the vision that we have, but then also what's the emotion behind the vision. And so alignment is the second thing. And then the third one is very simply creating the environment to execute on that vision. And so a good leader will create the environment where people feel like they can go execute. And if momentum starts to lag a little bit, then that leader is there to push things forward. So true leadership, I think, is all around crafting a vision, building alignment, and then championing execution.
So what is servant leadership?
So servant leadership is one of those terms that became a little bit cliche or a buzzword for a period of time. And even today, if you mention it, most people will know what you're talking about. Servant leadership, I think, means different things to different people. And when you ask them what is servant leadership, you'll hear descriptions like, always set a good example. I would never ask my employees to do something that I wouldn't do, putting others first. Those are all descriptions. But what I think in terms of every single day, I mean, how do you really become a servant leader, and how do you demonstrate that? To me, there's a very simple order of behaviors and order of judgment that we should be using. And here's the order. It's organization first, then people or a person or a department second, and then self last. And so if we always make decisions and we behave in that order, organization, then people, then self, then we'll always be respected and consistent and fair, not always liked, but all of those other things. And I think, Don, we can extrapolate that out to go even deeper than just like decision making. I think many of us can connect with the notion of, I'm talking with somebody, whether it's a friend or a colleague or an employee or whatever, and all of a sudden I start thinking about all the things I got to do. I got to finish up, this assignment over here. I got to go check my email. I got to return this call. I got to go get dinner, whatever it happens to be. And we start to tune out the person that we're talking about. Well, that person knows that you're doing that. Body language will absolutely tell them that you're tuning them out. And so this notion of organization, people, and self, when you're doing that to somebody, you're putting self above the person or the people. And a true servant leader is always going to put others first. And so that in that moment, it's important to recognize that it's not about me. It's not about the stuff that I need to get done. It's about the employee I'm engaging or the person that I'm engaging. And so this notion of organization, then people, then self can apply to so many different situations as we engage people in our own organizations. And to me, I think that's what servant leadership is. It's always keeping that order in mind in everything that we do. And if we can do that, I think by default become servant leaders.
So why do so many leaders fall short in their effectiveness, or even worse, fail altogether?
There's probably a lot of reasons for that, but in my experience, probably one of the most common reasons is because organizations will take people who are really strong in technical areas, like great salespeople or great engineers or whatever. And because they're so good at that technical stuff, they move them into a leadership position where they become somebody's boss. And they either ignore or just kind of sidestep the fact that when you go from being a technical contributor to somebody's boss, it's an entirely different skill set. It takes a whole different set of abilities and skills and perspectives. And if somebody is not prepared for that, then I think they get into the job and it's different than what they imagined, or they took it for all of the wrong reasons, right? They wanted the money, they wanted the title, they wanted the shirt, they wanted the perks, whatever it happens to be. They take it for the wrong reasons. And in a bigger kind of perspective or bigger framework, we tend to look at anybody in any job, and there's three things we look for. Does the person get it? Do they get what it really means to be in the job? And it's only when they actually get it that they can decide if they want it, which is the second thing. And so they have to get it and they have to want it before they can be given the capability of doing it. And so what happens is people get put into these positions without ever really getting what it means to be in that job and be somebody's boss. And 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 months down the road, they're starting to get it. They get that they have to deal with conflict and performance issues and all these other employee issues and things that go along with it. And then they decide that they don't really want it anymore. But they can't say that they don't want it. And so they struggle through. And to me, that's a real shortcoming and a failure on the part of a lot of organizations. We don't do a good job of preparing folks for this promotional opportunity to make sure that they really get what it means to be in that job by giving them opportunities to grow and develop and learn before they get there. And so I think that's really what it is. People tend to fall flat or fail because they got into the job for the wrong reasons. And by the time they figured out what it means to be in the job, it's too late. And it's really tough for them to back out. And so things just kind of spiral out of control.
So how do leaders establish culture in an organization?
Oh, I love this. So it's kind of funny. Well, we'll ask people to say, tell me about the culture in your organization, right? And you'll hear things like, oh, we're a close-knit team, right? We're like family. Or we'll hear things like we are driven for results, or whatever it happens to be. And it's kind of like servant leadership, right? So we all have different ideas of what culture really means, and the problem is we start to describe culture to people, and it's meaningless for most people because it's hard for them to connect with it. And so what I tell leaders is think of culture like this. Culture is whatever you hold people accountable for. And here's what I mean. There are two parts to everybody's job: what you do and how you do it. And as a leader, and the what's are the metrics, right? The deliverables, the numbers, the results, that kind of thing. The hows are not like job description hows. They're the behaviors, the conducts, the values. So what you do and the way you conduct yourself in the performance of your job. If a leader feels like the metrics are the most important thing, then he or she will hold people accountable to the metrics and will tend to maybe look the other way on some of the behavioral stuff. And in that situation, people will describe the culture as, oh, we are very results driven. It is all about hitting your numbers. Man, you better hit your numbers or you're going to be in bad shape. A leader who does the opposite, which really holds people accountable for the behaviors, it might tend to look the other way if certain results or goals aren't met. We'll get a culture that's described as, we're really, really close-knit here. We're family-like. We don't always hit our results, but that's okay, because it's more about how we treat people and who we are, and stewards of the community, and those types of things. Now, we know that both are important. And so the most effective organizations put importance on both of those things. One side or the other is not a good thing to do. But leaders may unintentionally create a certain culture by focusing on accountability for either the what's or the hows versus both of them. And so I'll say I'll have leaders ask me, I need to change the culture. I'm not happy with the culture that I'm in right now. And what I would tell them is, if you want to change the culture of your organization, just change the things you hold people accountable for. If you want to focus more on the hows, start holding people accountable for their behaviors and not looking the other way. And if you want to be more about the results and of the what's, start holding people accountable about the results and don't look the other way anymore. And you will shift the culture. And you'll probably lose some people along the way, but you will shift the culture. So that's what I think it is. Culture is directly connected to the things we hold people accountable for.
So what's the most challenging part of leading?
I guess in terms of the what's and the hows that we just talked about, for the what's part of it, which is the supervisory kind of thing, the management, I think the most challenging piece is resisting the urge to overcomplicate it. Leading people formally is really a very simple thing to do. And I kind of, it's analogous to skydiving, right? Skydiving is very simple to do. You just fall out of a plane and you count to a certain number and pull a ripcord. And if you're going tandem, you don't even have to do that. But it's really difficult. I mean, it's hard to do. Some people can't even get out of that plane, right? It's so tough to do. And I think what happens when people have employees, the difficulty of that tends to make them overcomplicate it or forget how simple it really is. I mean, it really is very simple. We are in kind of a loop as a supervisor or as a manager. We set clear expectations. We create monitoring systems that make sense, whether it's a weekly report or staff meeting, whatever it is, to monitor performance. And then we give feedback and coaching or hold people accountable. And then it starts over again. So expectations, monitoring, and then accountability. And it really is that simple, but it is also very, very difficult. And I think that's it. The most challenging thing is to make sure you don't overcomplicate it, because it is so difficult. I guess maybe that's it, just in my experience.
And then if you can, I think this may be as a resource for everybody, and not to put you on the spot, but I have some announcements to do, so you'll have some time to think about it, is maybe put your top, if someone wanted to read a leadership book or wanted to read a book that would make them a better leader or learn things about leadership, maybe put your top 3 books in the chat box.
Okay.
And I'm kind of going to scroll up here and see if we have any questions from the audience. And if we do, I'll ask those to you in just a minute. Let's see here. But I know the question of the day was about, what's the perfect breakfast look for you? We got some 3 pancakes. National Pancake Day was a couple days ago. Hope you had those on National Pancake Day. 2 eggs over easy with wheat toast, OJ, and coffee. How about some brisket, eggs, Benedict, and a Bloody Mary? That sounds good. Wow. Fried egg, cheese grits, and an English muffin with some tomato juice. Now this one, I think we're going to have maybe a cooking demonstration here. A British breakfast with bacon, eggs, sausage, fried bread, tomato, and black pudding. The fried bread and the black pudding has me interested. How about a veggie omelet? Oh, yeah. Big fruit buffet with a seafood omelet with crab, shrimp, and oysters, and outstanding robust coffee. Grits, eggs, bacon, and hash browns. Southern girl, like it. And then a Western omelet with cheese grits and some Hook and Barrel bourbon bacon. Hook and Barrel is a restaurant in Myrtle Beach that serves bacon standing up on a string, and it's got bourbon dripping off of it and glaze. It's just simply to die for. So, and of course, 0 calories. So there you have 3 books. So what got you here won't get you there. I like that. Traction and the Work of Leaders. Excellent. So those of you on the call, thank you for being here. Several announcements now. The first one coming up tomorrow evening with our RI director on Zoom at 6 p.m. Stephanie Urchek will be doing a strategic planning session. Information on how you can log in is on the front page of DACDB. Hope to see you tomorrow night at 6 p.m. They're asking for the authors of those books. Jim, if you could place those also in the chat box.
You bet.
And then another opportunity, speaking of the purple background, which is in the chat box if you want to download it. We're encouraging all Rotarians. If you're doing a Zoom call during the month of October, we would love to see this as your virtual background. And then also on Friday, this Friday, right after CWRAP at 12:30, we're going to host the inaugural Purple Pinky Polio Power meeting. It's actually going to be held at Chicora Rotary in Myrtle Beach, but you can watch it via Zoom. And the reason why we're doing it on Friday is District Polio Chair Bernie Rydell will be here in Myrtle Beach with me on Friday. So we'll be holding that via Zoom on Friday at 12:30. The information on how to log into that call is also on the front page of DACDB. Coming up on Wednesday for your next CWRAP program, we will hear from Stephanie Dasher from the Warrior Surf program. And then on Friday, October 2nd, prior to that Purple Pinky Polio Power meeting, will be Wayne Bomeyer from Disaster USA. And I'll call attention to Wayne, as Wayne was scheduled to speak with us early September, but due to Hurricane Laura, I believe, he was in Louisiana and Texas. So he's going to give us an update on what they've been working on down there and lives they've been saving and things they've been doing to put those places back together after that storm. So that ought to be a very interesting conversation coming up on Friday. The authors of those books have been placed in the chat box. And then lastly, is I want to remind everybody, there's 14 people on this call. There's some watching on Facebook. But is there someone in your Rotary Club that you may want to reach out to? Invite them to this meeting. They get the emails. Your friends outside of Rotary can be part of this. Jim, that link I sent you for this meeting can be accessed. You can access all of our programs going forward. Wednesdays or Mondays at 11, Wednesdays at noon, Friday at 11. Only time we don't do it is on a holiday. So invite your friends. If you're on Facebook, I encourage you to go after or now or right after the meeting and share this on your personal pages and most certainly on your Rotary Club Facebook page as well. So we can spread the good stuff that Jim talked about across the district and outside of our district on social media. Someone has a question here in the chat box, Jim. It's Simon Sinek. Maybe.
Okay. I'm sorry, what was the question?
It just says Simon Sinek, question mark. Maybe is there a book maybe he wrote, or is there something you like about him?
I'm not familiar with Simon's works. Is there a particular book that you have in mind?
Unmute me.
There you go. You're unmuted.
Simon is both an author and he also has podcasts. He's on Facebook and also on Instagram. You may want to see him. He's on TED Talks a lot. He's very inspirational, but also really talks about leaders. And one of his books is Leaders Eat Last. So it kind of dovetails into what you're doing. You may find him of interest.
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you very much.
All right. Well, Jim, thanks again for being here today. Please stay on.
Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity.
Yeah, and please stay on just for a few seconds after this. And those of you on the call, thank you too. Have a wonderful Monday. We'll see you. I will conclude with the Rotary four-way test. Of the things we think, say, or do, is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? Will it be beneficial to all concerned? Have a wonderful Monday, everyone. We'll see you on Wednesday for the next Conversations with Rotary Action People. Take care. Bye-bye.